Good morning, this is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More. I'm finishing 4 poems by Barrett. It's taken me a long time, but in so doing, I'm finding out that a slower life is for me. So, may the journey begin, because my old life I wonder how many Gen X particularly, I've heard us called another lost generation. I wonder how many of us realize, I think I'm just realizing right now, so maybe you can realize it with me, but we have such a responsibility to appreciate what came before the struggle of freedom and democracy, free will, yet discipline and duty in more balance, without racism and sexism, misogyny and all of that. We know that mantle is ours. We know it, but it's so easy to only look at what we need to change to get out of this pain. And it takes perseverance. To continue faithfulness, and nurture reality that's actually gorgeous. For the first time ever last night, I threw a spell by the light of the silvery moon. In other words, it was the first moon phase. I forget what it's called. And it's today. It begins today, coming out of the full moon's glory and going into another glory. And I have a small set of cards to help me, since I don't have time to just delve into a tremendous amount of study about the moon and astrology, astronomy, all of that. I really don't have time. I really am having to focus on my oracle, my life, and the healing processes going on here. This is a house of refuge. Judah, house of refuge. My parents had that. We have that. My parents were not the sort of exorcist I am. And there is much work of healing and nurturing to be done. And I say this with reverence, sobriety, gentle humor. I'm very thankful that this new life is intent upon dwelling carefully, magnificently, and at a pace which what comes exactly to mind is the time of Zipporah and Moses, where they had the Exodus and they made sure that they didn't go so fast. They were very methodical so that the youngest children and the oldest wise ones could come. They left none behind, and that's where we are as a people. And it's very overwhelming that it's not the other people, in a way that must be left out of our visionary life yet they are still there, and we still must nurture the thought, and the process of human life is beautiful, because there are too many ways and means in this world to devalue me and you and kitties and puppies and babies and women who need abortions, just to devalue us because we don't matter. But it does matter that Tadashi came in and is comforting me, and you can hear her purring. That matters to me. And if it matters to me, why don't you let it matter to you? Just because you do want to foster your own humanity. And that's a nice thing, isn't it? And last night, with the card and the beautiful spell that I was able to lay, it clearly began to work at the exact time I was doing the artwork, and that's amazing. It's the first time I've ever done it. So to have a small epiphany like that, which is of my spiritual side. First off, I've had a lot of those. Secondly, this one is pure joy because of what our family has overcome. And it involved a very real, in the flesh, spirit animal like Tadashi. It's just a beautiful story that is going to stay under the surface. I hope for you, my loves, my love life, not the rest of you. I apologize sincerely that you don't have time for us. You've just ripped us one hole after another, and we've even got to put back our own relationships, put back together our own relationships. And that's why I'm feeling blessed this morning, because I'm with Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning this morning. Because I need to be, because they are the same way as I am, as the King is, as Judah is, across the miles, across the times, across the seasons. And I need to be mentored by that which loves gently every bit as much as I needed to love by that which is ferocious and full of fire and ice in my old life. Do I still do that? It's more public now. It's not going to touch this place of homes of refuge, one of which I'm privileged to be a part of. It's that simple. Yes, I am still that. You don't ever stop being from your path. What you have to do in my position is know who leads you out and follows you out and takes your hand and walks beside you in the spirit world, if you're an ancient like I am. It's really that simple too. So let's read 2 poems of honesty. Let's never forget the story of Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett. I'm actually watching stories like this close up to a degree. In both realms, my story is like this. Because love matters. Perspective matters. And that is what Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning teach us over and over again with their beautiful poetry and their letters. Perspective matters. And I pray for you invoke for you an ability in all of your difficulties, in all of your hard life. Excuse me. Okay, it's all right. So I've already done some incense. I'm in cedar season right now. So my eyes and nose get messed with, and incense activates sneezing if your body is having a hard time. Here in and around this area of Austin, of Texas, that begins mid-December and ends completely by mid-March to 1st of April. So you have to slow down because your body needs you to slow down if you have this allergy. So that's where I am. And it's good for me. I get mad because I can't keep producing, and my loves, I'm so sorry. I could just cry. It just seems like our society just pumps work out of us and doesn't appreciate us at all, and we have no time to nurture our artistic side, our beauty side, or just sit down and look at a tree for a day and read a little poetry or whatever, science fiction or whatever. Just don't even have to think about the problems, kind of thing. Oh my. Oh my. So I suppose I have weeping to still do for you. And it's like I said to someone in my life when it was, the exorcism work was so overwhelming for so many years. It's like I said, I will never leave you. But then there were times where we both thought of leaving. It was so difficult to get through the betrayal of our whole 12-member family went through that chasm of suffering, and our hearts are, well, are they broken? Or no, they're really not, even though I say it that way. They need to be remolded in a new place, recreated, created. We don't need that heart anymore. We need a new heart. Yes, we will toil. We will also bathe in forgiveness, wash ourselves in the waterfall of forgiveness of ourselves and others, and just do that. We will not dip our fingers in the bloody river of the news and what awful is going on if we're not intentional with it, with the purpose of uplifting our people. We cannot be careless in this world, my loves. We cannot be careless. It will destroy not only ourselves, but others around us. And we are not destroyers. Let's remember that. We are creators. And for a season, Judah is in creating a new heart. And actually, the Christian world does have that music and everything. But there's a lot of Christians being left behind, my loves. And we need to smile and keep a distance. They are not we. But that doesn't mean we can't smile at them too, our enemy. It's just that complicated. But it's time to let go of the despair of the reality of that and somehow learn balance. Never denying the wickedness that is meeting our people, but at the same time, never denying the enchanted forest of love, where there is no death, suffering, and our collective energies are there. So I began to read this particular two of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's. Well, it began at December the 21st, which is 12/21 of 2022. And so when you have a day that is like 12/21, you're looking in the mirror automatically on that day. 1-2-2-1. And so be aware of it. The spirituality is such. Check where the moon phases are. Be aware. It's a beautiful time when you can gaze on both sides of the window. And I have already put up, but have not put the blog article together yet, A Child's Thought of God and a Dead Rose. Now, these are people. Elizabeth Barrett Browning writes from the position of a dependent, 100%, and she couldn't even, she was physically disabled. We have many among us, and they are the beautiful people as much as we are. And then that's what has been lost in this society. Oh my goodness. That's where the small town is missed by me. So I create it again. For thee, my people. It's almost like those of us that are Gen X are going to need 2 different lives now to protect and insulate from the creeping darkness. It's almost like that because we have that power, my loves. I have no doubt. And some of the baby boomers, we have that power. We need to strengthen each other is what I feel rather strongly right now. A woman's shortcomings. She has laughed as softly as if she sighed. She has counted 6 and over. Of a purse well filled and a heart well tried. Oh, each a worthy lover. They, quote unquote, give her time, for her soul must slip where the world has set the grooving. She will lie to none with her fair red lip. But love seeks truer loving. She trembles her fan in a sweetness dumb, as her thoughts were beyond recalling, with a glance for one and a glance for some, from her eyelids rising and falling. Speaks common words with a blushful air, hears bold words unreproving, but her silence says what she will never swear. And love seeks better loving. Go, lady, lean to the night guitar and drop a smile to the bringer. Then smile as sweetly when he is far at the voice of an indoor singer. Bask tenderly beneath tender eyes, glance lightly on their removing, and join new vows to old perjuries, but dare not call it loving. Unless you can think when the song is done, no other is soft in the rhythm. Unless you can feel when left by one, and that's a capital O one, that all men else go with him. Let me read that again. Unless you can feel when left by one, that all men else go with him. Unless you can know when unpraised by his breath, that your beauty itself wants proving. Unless you can swear, quote unquote, for life, for death, oh fear to call it loving. Unless you can muse in a crowd all day on the absent face that fixed you, unless you can love as the angels may, with the breadth of heaven betwixt you, unless you can dream that his faith is fast, through behooving and unbehooving, unless you can die when the dream is past, oh, never call it loving. A man's requirements. Love me, sweet, with all thou art, feeling, thinking, seeing. Love me in the lightest part, love me in full being. Love me with thine open youth in its frank surrender, with the vowing of thy mouth, with its silence tender. Love me with thine azure eyes, made for earnest granting, taking color from the skies. Can heaven's truth be wanting? Love me with their lids that fall, snow-like at first meeting. Love me with thine heart that all neighbors then see beating. Love me with thine hand stretched out, freely open-minded. Love me with thy loitering foot, hearing one behind it. Love me with thy voice that turns, sudden faint above me. Love me with thy blush that burns when I murmur, love me. Love me with thy thinking soul, break it to love sighing. Love me with thy thoughts that roll on through living, dying. Love me in the gorgeous airs when the world has crowned thee. Love me kneeling at thy prayers with the angels around thee. Love me pure as musers do up the woodlands shady. Love me gaily, fast and true as a winsome lady. Through all hopes that keep us brave, farther off or nigher, love me for the house and grave and for something higher. Thus, if thou wilt prove me dear, women's love no fable, I will love thee half a year, as a man is able. She had a father that was very cruel, that she was dependent on, yet he took good care of her. That wasn't a nice poem at the end, was it, about men? It is pointing to their selfishness, make no mistake. There is no selfish men in my midst. I'm not the one that led us here. There is no selfishness of the wrong kind in this place. Let me close with something my therapist helped Curtis and I with. Yes, after what we've been through, because we have such a large family, we've been kicked out of, we couldn't go back to the church. I'm actually going back in. That's an interesting development that is going to only be seen a certain way, and I'm not in charge of that. My story is definitely new now. Yeah, on the other side of my life, I think Curtis has had to create a new manhood in his Christian life. And in that, he's a pioneer. I keep telling one of my sons, you're very courageous. He can't see it, but I know it's to be true. Manhood has to be created anew. More than womanhood, I've already talked about this because of the book of 2 John and how destroyed it is in religious circles. You don't not reparate for rape without there being what I'm saying. You have destroyed us. Religion has destroyed us. So that's where the creation now is. We are we, broken as we are. We're not really broken. And I think sometimes we wish we could just lay on the ground and stay there. And we aren't selfish when we feel that. It has been that difficult. And I will say for Gen Z, for Millennial and Gen Z, my children, I hope for hope, because I have none. That does not mean our love is not known by me. It does mean that there are people around me that need to get a more positive perspective about the last 20 years of this family's life. And that takes time for them. And it's been very difficult. So I am sorry to have to share that. Let me uplift my men. We are we. You do not get the beautiful poetry about a woman from Elizabeth Barrett if she didn't know quite a bit more than what her father dished out to her entire sibling network about love. That's where the ancient ways come forth. She had the time to sharpen her perspective, to understand things. I am certain she was well read, and we know she was well written. She, you would have thought, lived a life of ease. It was not. And I am thankful to be here where there's not as much physical labor. I am invoking for us constantly because COVID is slowing us down, whether we like that or not, even in the public realms. People are beginning to realize, I think and hope that people are beginning to realize, we must understand perspectives of human suffering and gorgeous reality in the soul better than this bullshit. And raise the children that way, no matter which side of the tracks they're on. Teach them, lead them to bring beauty, and then accept the beauty they are. We must lead one another out of hell on earth, 2023 and beyond, one day at a time. And I will share with you that our hell is getting sweeter. And yes, it did have to do with Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovered No More being privileged with purchasing a moon calendar, a lunar calendar, which shows me exactly which phases I'm going into so that I can, the day before a certain phase, pull the card, set a blessing, spell for our gentle work and play and perspective, and then have a spirit animal specifically show up. That is not the first time. By a long shot. Around my children, adult children. A bunny visits me. Last spring and summer season, bunny and like an adult child and I would be talking on the step before they left, trying to catch up and understand what we've been through together, but also protecting each other from some things. And Bunny came up and said hi. We both just laughed and kept talking. Birds. And that's been happening for years. Now it's hawks. We have pigeons and sparrows. I have my feeders hub. And Baymax talks to the birds constantly. It's very sweet. And yes, the spirit life of reality is true and real. I'm tired of humanity being so negative around me that they just refuse to look at the beautiful side. And it looks like we've got a combination going now that we can work with. And it's amazing to me that spells really do work. But I will stand guard. You will not curse. Spiritualists, you keep your curses off Judah, off the elect. I'm cursing you. You either purify your places and destroy the cursing of what is not absolutely wicked, or I'll do it for you. I'm coming for you. I have no problem with that side of my life. What I have a problem with is murderers, rapists, killing our souls. And if you don't have that mentality as a spiritualist, shaman, gurus, sorcerers, sorceresses, you witches stay back. You stand back. This isn't about you. You're lower level and you know it. And you're jealous a lot of times and you're feeding wickedness. You get back and you purify your heart and get humble. We don't want to have to deal with wickedness the way we do, but we don't need others that we nurture and love fighting with us for no reason other than jealousy. Discipline yourselves. I have to leave with this warning for one reason. I release my beautiful testimony and everybody hones in on that. Uses it for their own sakes. If you don't think that the wicked can also commune with the animals, then you don't understand the wars that are actually being waged on this earth at all. Wisdom calls in the streets. Now, this is tarot, and I do believe you can tell the difference between the two. Signing off, Beaty-Coffey, the Ministry of Ungovernable.